gorgeous and happy spring day. I'm Barne. You're joining me on a carp fishing session at the mighty Klaserie Dam. It's a place that definitely is a big favorite on a lot of carp anglers' lists. It certainly is up there amongst my top favorite dams. It's only my second session here, and it's only my first morning, as I just mentioned. So I'd like to just quickly discuss a couple of tactics that I'll be employing to hopefully bag myself a beautiful mirror carp from this awesome piece of water. Okay, so firstly, I just want to run through my leader material. So basically, I'm fishing with braided main lines, and the breaking strain on the main line is about 30 pounds. That's to ensure that you've got enough braid on there to fish at really long ranges and still maintain a lot of strength. The reason that I'm fishing with braid is because I'm fishing quite a long distance out. I actually want no stretch in the setup whatsoever. The only stretch I'll allow in it is in the leader material. So basically what I'm doing is I'm fishing a really heavy lead of 6 to 8 ounces, gripper lead, so that they stay put even when there's strong winds or nuisance fish moving your rig around. Then behind that, I'm fishing a long length of tubing. Basically what I do is I take the quarter safe zone sinking rig tube, and I just match the color to the bottom of this dam, and the color that I see in the margins here is hopefully what we're faced with out there. I've tried getting some samples off the bottom with the gripper leads, just dragging them over the spot, but nothing sticks to them, so I'm assuming it's also quite sandy on the spots out there, just like it is in the shallow margins here. So basically the color that matches there is the gravel brown. If you lay it down on the margin on this end here, together with the leads that are also sort of a brown color, it's very, very well camouflaged. And the reason that's quite important, I think now, is that the dam is definitely the clearest I've seen it. I've got a good friend fishing here to the left of my swim. Well, he fishes here every single year for at least a week, and he says it's the cleanest the water's been. So I think it's something to consider. Just think about the presentation that you're putting down there. Just do a bit of extra effort. Leader material, literally just a really, really strong monofilament, the thickest one that you can get through the tubing. This happens to be a really, really strong 25-pound monofilament. It doesn't sound that strong, but to be quite honest with you, at Saltwater Dam, which has snags that are way more severe than the snags in here, I fished with this particular leader as my leader material, this mono, and then also the quarter tubing. The tubing helps like you cannot believe. The snags really don't cut through the tubing. So basically what we do is we just thread the nylon leader, which may take a while, straight into the quarter sinking rig tube. You literally just nurse it through a bit. It may seem like a bit of a process, but it doesn't take you much longer than it would to tie up a lead core leader. So literally just let the tubing hang down a bit, and it's through. Okay, so that's the leader material through the tubing. So now the tubing acts as a protective sheath over your mono leader. Okay, so the reason I'm using a mono leader is because there's a strong likelihood that a lot of people use braided leaders, and what braided leaders do is they stand out like a sore thumb. They don't take on water as much, so they tend to float a bit, and I think that fish that have been caught a couple of times may associate the presence of the braid in the swim with danger, and we just want to avoid that situation completely. So what we do is on the end of this, we actually just add our lead clip. The lead clip that I like to use is the Corda hybrid lead clip, also in the same color, the gravel color, and then that's also then coupled with your gravel tail rubber. Just tie it straight onto the mono leader using a Palomar knot. Okay, so a Palomar knot is rated as one of the strongest knots for any kind of line. So basically what it is, it's a loop that you push the loop end through the swivel, or in this case the hybrid clip. Tie a simple overhand knot, take the end of that particular loop and pass it over whatever you're knotting. Then pull it back, a lot like a 3/8, not really. Then carefully just tease it, wet it with saliva properly so that your line doesn't burn when you pull the knot tight. And you go. One of the strongest knots you'll ever find. It won't slip, and it most likely breaks at a higher strain than the actual line, or at least at the same sort of strain. Now, once you've done this, what you do with the end of your mono leader is you just quickly pass it through a tail rubber that also matches, in this case it's gravel brown. Then you tie a Palomar knot in the end of your leader. So for those of you who don't know, the Palomar knot is probably the strongest knot available, really. It's rated as one of the strongest knots, and there's a good chance that the monofilament leader will most likely break somewhere along the leader before the knot does. Okay, so you just form a loop, pass the loop through your swivel, create a simple overhand knot, and then pass the end of the loop over the swivel. Right, so you knot this, you wet it rather, sorry. And pull it tight, ensuring that your knot beds down nice and neatly so that there's no slippage during the fight. Then pull the whole lot together, insert the end of the tubing into the back of the tail rubber. So that's going to sit flush in there, won't come out. And then just add your lead to this arrangement. Now, these leads are quite nice. They weigh 6 ounces. They'll hold bottom. They've got little knobs on them. They're known as gripper leads. They tend to hold quite well on sandy and sort of gravelly bottoms, especially when you've got big wings and lots of small sort of nuisance fish like silverfish and Carp and that sort of thing that tend to play with your rigs quite a bit. The guy that makes them, you'll find him on Facebook if you want to find these leads. His name is Conrad Mayberg. You can just hit him up on Facebook. You just basically hook the end of that ring into your lead clip arrangement there, and just ensure that you tune it in such a way that when you pick it up from the rig end, you can just give it one good shake and the lead falls off. The reason for that is in between the spot that I'm fishing and the bank, there are a couple of loose rocks on the bottom. So I don't want to be faced with a situation where the fish dives down once he's picked up the rig and goes around the rock. I lost a huge fish in this dam on the previous session I did here because of that. I didn't dump the lead quickly enough and that fish just went around the rock. I could not stop it for no love or money in the world. Actually, that's the one thing in my fishing that I really regret is losing that particular fish. So for you not to have the same experience, just ensure that you carry a lot of leads, that you don't mind dropping them. And also just, like I said, just tune your tail rubber in such a way that when the rig is picked up, there's enough force to set the hook, but just enough to set the hook and to get the fish to bolt. You don't want to contend with 6 ounces of lead and the fish, because that tends to drive them down, whereas if the lead drops, they go up in the water and you shouldn't have any problems landing them from there on. Right, okay, so the next thing is the rig. So let's get to that quickly. We're fishing with particles, and what I see quite a bit, and you'll still catch fish on longer rigs, but I think to increase your chances by at least like 50% or 100% even of a fish picking up your hook bait into them actually registering a take on your side is to shorten your rig quite a bit, because when fish feed on particles, they tend to feed quite slowly and statically. So that means that if they pick up one particle here, they'll pick up the next one right next to it. So they're going to be sort of passively feeding on one area. You need a rig that's going to straighten out a lot quicker than a very, very sort of long rig. And for that reason as well, I'm using quite a stiff rig with a little supple section on the end. That serves a dual purpose. If you drop that rig, it straightens out quite nicely. It has that sort of a hinge effect, whereby if you imagine the lead being at my elbow and you drop this lead on the bottom, then the rig, if it's tuned correctly, if you sort of critically balance your hook bait, then the whole hinge effect is going to make or push the hook bait and the hook away from the lead. So you've got a nice straight rig on the bottom. That also helps quite a bit with your presentation and the speed at which the hook will prick the fish's lip. Okay, so to tie up a rig like this, I'll quickly just show you. It's very, very simple. It's a lot like tying a normal hair rig, just a couple more seconds longer, and you've got a rig that I think is a bit more effective in tying up a long rig or perhaps a supple link over a bed of particles. Basically what you use is quarter mouth cap. It's a charred filament. This is the 20-pound version. It's not difficult to work with at all. You basically just strip a section off that's about, let's say, as long as a standard rig box. You're looking at a length of about 24 centimeters, 25 centimeters. The best thing to add to this is a ring swivel. A ring swivel allows you that hinge motion that I was talking about earlier. And you tie a simple normal clinch knot, just turned around twice, tucked through the loop once. Because it's such a stiff material, it beds down brilliantly with this knot. Just wet it properly with some saliva. Just use your pulling tool because I don't think you can exert enough pressure on it just with your bare hands. So pull it tight like this, and already you'll see it's got an extremely high memory, so just from pulling it that bit, it's already virtually straight. So after I've tied up the rig, I'll show you how to straighten it out properly. Now, the next thing is the supple section that goes on the front. So how do you achieve that? I mean, you can use whichever hook you want to. It looks like the perfect hook for the job is the quarter crank hook. This is a size 2, it's a nice big hook. You know, I wouldn't really mess around with smaller hooks. They do put up a bit of a fight as well. You want something that you could comfortably pressure them away from snags and things without having the doubt of a small dainty hook in your mouths being able to tear out at any second. It's a nice, big, strong, meaty hook, thick wire gauge, and you'll see it has a lovely wide, it's like a super wide gape. Very, very sharp point. So ideal for this sort of fishing, where you know you're going to leave a rig out there for 12 to 24, maybe even longer, hours-wise at least. So the next thing up on this rig is the supple section. So really what you want to use is a braid that isn't too smooth. Okay, so just have a look around at hook link braids out there. This happens to be a mainline braid that I'll be using now. It's a really thick braid, so it's perfect for the job. Also with this, you know, don't be shy to strip off or to pull off quite a bit from your little spool. You'll need quite a bit of braid to tie up this rig. You just create your standard little loop for attaching your hook bait. Then you basically just tie up a normal, straightforward hair rig. Just leaving yourself enough space there for 2 tigers or a tiger and a piece of cork. Really tightly wind your braid around the shank of the hook. Now this you can wind right the way down until you've wound it down level with the actual hook point. So it looks a bit agricultural. It's not a very finessey type rig, but like I said, on dams like Klaserie, Finalizing, in these places, you don't want finesse, you don't want daintiness in your rig. You want strength and reliability. Okay, so then just create that normal hair rig right there. Very simple, nothing clever about that. Your mouth trap boom section that you've created, and then form a little V, or a loop rather. This is a lot like a leader knot really. You pass your supple braid through the loop you've created, pull it right down to the hook, literally right, straight down to the hook. Now the next thing to do is to wind the supple braid around the loop 7 times. So that's 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 up. And then 1, 2, 3. It's actually more like 2.5 down. Now, the important bit about this is to let the end of the braid pass through the loop the same way that it went in. So in other words, if you brought the braid in from the bottom, you would then exit from the top to go back out through the bottom. Now, you pull the entire arrangement straight, and then very carefully just wet it. Wet that knot with saliva, and pull the whole lot straight, tight. Just carefully teasing it down and letting it down as you go. With this braid being quite a thick braid, it's not going to form the most finessey looking kind of knot. It's neat, but it's just not very finessey because of the chunky nature of the braid. So that's not a problem, because what that does is it gives your putty that you're going to add to the rig a nice little place to purchase, or to find purchase rather. And last step, well, one of the last steps is adding the putty. All right, so the putty that we're using here is Corda's dark matter tungsten putty. What you do is just mold it for a couple of seconds in your fingers just to make it nice and malleable. Mold it around the knot that you formed between the boom section and the supple braid, and just roll it in between your fingers. Form it nicely, and there you go. One last thing on this rig left to do is to straighten out this high memory material. The puller tool, if you've got 2 of them, that's great. I just use a puller tool and a scissor generally. Pull it straight, and if you've got long pants on, you can actually just roll the mono up and down your knee. If I do it now, I'm going to burn myself a bit, but to give you an idea there, if you don't get the hook stuck in your leg either. There you go. That's a perfectly straight boom section. Really aggressive little rig this. Excellent hooking potential. I mean, if you just look at the way that thing just drops. The fish picks up the hook bait. That's just going to drop right on his bottom lip. The weight of the putty just pricking the point of the hook in there. It just makes sense that this is a very good rig. It's the first rig I'm trying for the week. So we'll see whether it produces any bites. I can't see why, if the fish are feeding, why it wouldn't produce a bite. Well, that was a bit unexpected. Whew, but very welcome, all the same. So the reason I wasn't expecting a take right then was because the rods were in really early this morning, and to be honest, I put quite a bit of bait on them. It doesn't feel like a big fish at all, I must say. It's basically just nodding its head. Blistering take, brilliant. Oh, I was actually playing around with my spinning rod, probably about 20 meters away from here. It's just coming towards me, but all the same, I'm ready for the moment it wants to turn around and vault. Because that does happen. You know, often you'll be playing a fish and it just feels heavy like this. This one actually feels quite heavy now, but it just comes towards you, lulls you into a false sense of confidence, and then the next moment it just turns around and steams it off. And if you're not quick, especially with braid, you could be in for some trouble. Straightened hooks, broken leaders, and tears. So it's carted across the right-hand rod, and you'll see I've got 2 separate setups with 2 rods on each. Just makes playing the fish breezer as well. It may actually be a good time for me to go in and fetch it with a boat. There's a very good reason it didn't fight that hard. It's really small. I didn't even know that Carp and Klaserie came in this size, really. Apparently 500 of these size fish were stocked in here, and you know, in my opinion, I'm not a fish farmer, but it's not a good move. You know, Klaserie Dam is a dam that breeds big carp. It's not a conventional dam where you can just go and cast a line from the bank and expect to catch a couple of fish of this size. So there are dams for that purpose, or that lend themselves to that purpose. Why everyone would want to convert a place like Klaserie to something like that is beyond me. It's just my opinion, though. But I'm sure I can't be alone. There must be a lot of other anglers who feel that they'd rather stick it out for a big fish than catch a couple every minute, so every day or every couple of hours, only to find that they're this size and in this condition. These fish were clearly stocked from somewhere where there was not much policy in place for fish care. It's got a torn mouth. It's not the kind of thing that I would want to fish for. The rigs work, and the location I chose is definitely one where the carp would be willing to feed. And if you can get these guys to feed, what's to say you can't get the bigger ones to feed as well? It's a beautiful little mirror carp. I'm not taking anything away from this fish. You know, it's just quite obvious that this fish isn't a Klaserie fish. You know, why spoil that gene pool? That's my argument. Maybe a 2 kilo mirror carp. Caused a lot of excitement though, so that's brilliant. I'm happy. Well, it definitely saved me from a blank. Now I've already caught one. So I'm just going to return this one to the water and get the rig back out there. I noticed that this fish has got some bad marks on it, quite likely from stocking. So I'm just treating it because at least Klaserie Dam is a very, very rich environment, and even though this is a little scamper, if I treat it now, you know, there's a good chance it could gain quite a bit of weight and turn into a big fish one day. Cheerio. Thanks for the excitement.